Hey everyone, welcome back. As we head into 2025, there's something that's probably on a lot of people's minds, and that's Social Security. We've got some pretty big changes coming, and to be honest, some of them are a little surprising.
Yeah, you're not wrong. These changes are really going to affect millions of people. So whether you're already getting benefits or just planning for the future, it's super important to understand what's happening.
For sure. And that's what we're here for. We're going to break it all down in a way that hopefully makes sense and maybe even makes it a little interesting.
Right. Nobody wants a boring lecture on Social Security.
Exactly. But before we get into all the details, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes where we dive into all kinds of financial stuff.
All right, so let's get into it. What are the biggest changes coming to Social Security in 2025? You've been looking at all the latest info, so what jumps out at you?
Well, the one that everyone's talking about is the cost of living adjustment.
Yeah.
The KOLA.
Yeah, the KOLA. That's the big announcement every year that everyone waits for.
It can really make a difference in people's budgets.
For sure.
And for 2025, it's set at 2.2%.
Right, and that's actually lower than the 3.2% we saw in 2024. So it seems like things are going back to how they were before the pandemic when it comes to inflation.
So what does that mean in real terms for the average person?
Well, it means an increase of about $50 a month. So that brings the average benefit up to $1,976.
Okay, so not a huge jump.
No, not really. It's actually the lowest COLA we've seen in 4 years. But a really high COLA isn't always a good thing. It usually means inflation is high too, and that means the stuff you need to buy costs more.
Yeah, it's not just about the numbers on paper. It's about how much you can actually buy with that money. Thinking back to right after the pandemic, how did that higher COLA actually affect your finances when prices were going up so much?
Right. If you're like, yeah, that was tough, give us a like.
I think that's a good point that sometimes gets lost in the conversation. It's not just about the number, it's about the bigger picture.
Exactly. And speaking of the bigger picture, the COLA might not be the only thing impacting your wallet this year. We also have changes coming to Medicare Part B premiums.
Oh boy, here it comes. Everyone's been kind of bracing themselves for this premium hike.
So the standard monthly premium for Part B is going up to $185.
From $174.70 in 2024.
That's right.
So if we do the math, that increase could actually eat into that COLA increase by about $10.30 per month.
Yeah, that's something to think about for sure. And for most people on Medicare, these premiums are taken directly out of their Social Security benefits. So it's really important to understand how it all fits together.
Absolutely. Knowing where your money is going is always a good thing. Well, before we all start to panic, there's some good news too. There are actually some positive changes happening with Social Security this year as well.
Yeah, that's right. Some good news for anyone who was affected by the Windfall Elimination provision, or WEP, and the government pension offset, which is also known as the GPO.
Okay, those are some pretty intimidating acronyms. Can you break it down for us and explain why this is such a big deal?
Sure. So these provisions were basically put in place to prevent people from what some considered double dipping into Social Security benefits. They reduced benefits for people who earned Social Security credits from jobs in the private sector, but who were also receiving a government pension from jobs that didn't pay into Social Security.
So we're talking about people who dedicated their careers to public service, like teachers and police officers and firefighters.
Exactly.
Okay.
And now, with President Biden signing the Social Security Fairness Act, which repealed the WEP and GPO, those folks could actually see their benefits go up.
Wow. And not just that, they might even get some money back.
Right.
Retroactive lump sum payments for 2024.
It's possible.
That's great news. All right, so let's move on to the less fun part of this conversation. Taxes. We can't talk about finances without talking about taxes.
True. Taxes are a big part of how Social Security works. Remember, it's mainly funded through a 12.4% tax on earnings.
Right. And that 12.4% is split between the employee and the employer, 6.2% each. But I hear there's a change to how much of your income is actually taxed for Social Security in 2025.
Yeah, that's right. The amount of income that's subject to that tax has gone up to $176,177.
Up from $168,000 in 2024.
Yep. So anything you earn over that amount won't be taxed for Social Security.
But it's important to remember that it will still be taxed for Medicare at 1.4%.
That's right.
And this income limit usually goes up a little bit every year, so it's something to keep an eye on.
Okay, so let's talk about something that's probably on a lot of people's minds. working while collecting Social Security.
Yeah, a lot of people want to know about that.
So how does that work?
Well, that's where the earnings test comes in. If you decide to start taking Social Security benefits before you reach your full retirement age, which is between 66 and 67, depending on when you were born, and you're still working and earning over a certain amount, some of your benefits might be temporarily withheld. Right. And for 2025, that limit is $23,400, up from $22,320 in 2024. So you can earn a little bit more before you hit that limit. So what happens if you do go over that limit?
Well, for every $2 you earn over the limit, $1 of your benefits might be withheld. But the important thing to know is that this is just temporary. Once you hit your full retirement age, you get your full benefit no matter how much you're earning.
Oh, that's good to know. I think some people might be hesitant to work because they're worried about losing benefits.
Definitely. But it's just temporary.
So it's really about finding that sweet spot between working and bringing in some income and maximizing your Social Security benefits.
Yeah, for sure. It can be a little tricky to figure out the best strategy.
Well, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back with more on those Social Security changes coming in 2025.
Sounds good. Welcome back. We're still digging into all those Social Security changes coming in 2025. You know, these little tweaks and adjustments might not seem like a huge deal at first.
But they can really add up over time.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were just talking about those maximum benefit amounts. Yeah. I mean, they sound pretty good, right?
Yeah. Who wouldn't want that?
But getting to those maximums, it takes some planning. It's not just about earning a lot of money.
No, it's definitely not that simple. It's about making smart choices and maximizing those Social Security credits throughout your working years.
Right. Some people think that if you're a high earner, you're automatically going to get a big Social Security check when you retire.
Yeah, but that's not always true. There's actually a limit on how much of your income is even counted when they're calculating your benefit.
And for 2025, that cap is $176,177.
Right. So even if you're making millions of dollars, only that specific amount is going to be used in the calculation.
So it really shows how important it is to understand all the little details of how this system works.
Yeah, there are a lot of moving parts.
And all these different factors come together to determine your final benefit amount. I think some people might be surprised to hear that there's actually a limit on how much you can receive.
I think so too. It doesn't matter how much you earned, there's a cap.
So it's a good reminder that Social Security is just one piece of the puzzle when it comes to retirement planning.
Right. It's not the whole picture. You can't just rely on Social Security alone. Thinking about your whole financial picture and building a solid foundation is so important for the future.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about something that often causes a lot of confusion. The earnings test. This is something that trips people up, especially if they're thinking about working part-time while they're collecting benefits.
Yeah, it can be a little tricky. The important thing to remember is that the earnings test only applies if you start taking benefits before your full retirement age.
So if you're thinking about working and taking benefits early, you really need to pay attention to those income limits.
Definitely. And for 2025, that limit is $23,400. So if you earn more than that for every $2, you go over $1 of your benefits could be withheld.
But the good news is that's just temporary, right?
Exactly. It's not like you lose those benefits forever. Once you reach your full retirement age, you'll get your full benefit amount no matter how much you're earning.
Oh, that's really good to clarify. I think some people might avoid working altogether because they don't want to risk losing any benefits.
Right, but it's not a permanent thing.
And the earnings limit usually goes up each year, too.
So there's that.
So you can gradually earn a bit more over time. It's really about finding that balance between working and earning income and getting the most out of your Social Security benefits. Not always an easy thing to do.
No, it's not. And that's why it can be so helpful to have a plan that's tailored to your situation. A certified financial planner can really help you crunch the numbers and come up with a strategy that works for you.
Right, because everyone's situation is different.
Absolutely. What works for one person might not work for another. Social Security isn't a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
So we always encourage everyone to do their research and look at their options and talk to a financial professional if they need help making these big financial decisions.
Yeah, it's your future. You want to make sure you're making the best choices for yourself.
Well, before we move on to some frequently asked questions about Social Security, we want to make sure you're staying connected with us. If you're finding this information helpful and you want to learn more about personal finance and retirement planning, make sure to hit that subscribe button to give us a like.
We appreciate your support. It really helps us reach more people who could benefit from this information.
All right, let's dive into some of those burning questions we know you have. One question we hear all the time is, what if I change my mind about when I start taking benefits? Like maybe you started early, but then you realize it wasn't the best move?
Yeah, what happens then? Can you go back?
Is there a way to undo that decision?
While there is some good news, there's actually a little bit of flexibility built into the system. You can actually withdraw your application for benefits and reapply later.
Oh, okay.
But there are some rules and timeframes you need to be aware of.
So it's not a free do-over?
No, not exactly.
What do people need to know about withdrawing their application?
Okay, so you have 12 months from the time you started receiving benefits to withdraw your application. But here's the catch. You have to repay any benefits you've already received.
Ah, so there is a trade-off.
Yeah.
But it's good to know that option is there if someone needs it.
It's kind of like a safety net in case things change or you realize you made a mistake.
Because life happens, right?
Yeah.
Plans change.
Exactly.
It's reassuring to know there's a little bit of wiggle room in the system. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about another question that comes up a lot. What happens to my benefits if I pass away? And not the most cheerful topic, but it's important to think about.
Yeah, it's not fun to think about, but it's something we need to address. And that's where survivor benefits come in. Social Security actually provides benefits to certain family members of deceased workers who are receiving Social Security.
So it's not just about you, it's about providing some security for your loved ones too.
Right. Eligible family members can include a spouse, children, or even dependent parents in some cases.
It really highlights how Social Security is more than just an individual program. It's about supporting families.
Absolutely. And the details of survivor benefits can be a bit complicated, so it's always best to talk to someone at Social Security or a financial advisor to understand how it all works in your specific situation.
Well, we've covered a lot today, from TLA adjustments and Medicare premiums to earnings tests and survivor benefits. Phew.
A lot to take in.
But hopefully we've been able to break down some of these important changes and how they might affect you.
Now and in the future.
Remember, knowledge is power. The more you know about Social Security, the better prepared you'll be to make smart choices for your financial future.
And don't forget, we're here to help guide you through all of this. If you have any more questions or you just need some personalized advice, don't hesitate to reach out to a financial expert. They can help you figure it all out.
And if you found this conversation helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a like. We really appreciate your support. It helps us get this information out to more people who need it. All right, so welcome back. This is the final part of our look at all the Social Security changes coming in 2025.
We've gone over a lot, but there's still more to talk about.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you have everything you need to navigate all these changes and make smart decisions for your financial future.
Absolutely.
So before we wrap up, let's address a few more frequently asked questions that we get about Social Security.
Right.
We're just talking about withdrawing your application and reapplying later.
Right.
But what if you need to make changes to your application after you've already sent it in?
Yeah, that's a good question. Things happen, Life throws you curveballs, and sometimes you need to make adjustments. The good news is you can usually make changes to your application even after you've submitted it.
Okay.
Like maybe you need to change your start date for your benefits, or you need to add or remove a beneficiary.
So it's not like hitting that submit button is like the end of the story.
No, not at all. The Social Security Administration gets things changed. You can just contact them directly and make those changes.
Okay, good to know. It's nice to have a little bit of flexibility.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to another question that often causes confusion. How does Social Security work with other retirement income, like pensions or 401ks?
Ah, yes. Trying to figure out how all those different income streams work together in retirement.
It can feel like a puzzle. But the main thing to remember here is that Social Security is meant to work with your other retirement savings, not replace them.
Exactly. It's just one part of your overall retirement income plan.
Right. It's not an either situation.
Yeah.
It's more about creating a diversified portfolio of income sources.
Think of it like a safety net. It's there to provide a base level of income, and then you can build on that with your other savings and investments.
And that's where working with a financial advisor can be so helpful. They can help you figure out how all those different pieces fit together and create a retirement plan that meets your specific needs and goals.
Absolutely. It's all about creating a strategy that works for you and your unique situation.
So before we say goodbye, I want to circle back to something we've touched on a few times. Knowledge is power.
Yeah, it's true.
Social Security can seem really complicated.
Yeah.
But the more you understand about how it works, the better decisions you can make about your finances, both now and in the future.
We've covered a lot of ground today, but hopefully you're walking away with a better sense of how these Social Security changes could impact you. And remember, even if you're feeling a little overwhelmed or you still have questions, you're not alone. There are resources out there to help.
The Social Security Administration website is a great place to start, And of course, talking to a trusted financial advisor can give you personalized guidance. So that's it for today. Thanks for joining us as we explored all these changes coming to Social Security in 2025. We're here to help you navigate the world of personal finance and make smart choices for your future.